Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Ginos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Grutniblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Ginos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have nots of the last couple of weeks. Let's get it. And of course, I have your friend and my best friend, the guy with the best fantasy hockey critique, Blake Creamer. Blake, how are we feeling tonight?
The best. Oh, buddy, I'm just banking these compliments. I'm putting them in my pocket, saving for a rainy day. It makes me feel good and warm and fuzzy inside. Thank you, Nathan. I'm feeling all right, buddy. Yeah, we're just Nate and I, we wanted to start recording like 45 minutes ago, but we're just commiserating about our fantasy hockey teams, which is something I love about you, buddy. And fantasy hockey is a fickle game. I was going to say something else, but yeah, it's pretty damn painful at times. But you got to trust the process. Am I right, Nate?
Yep, trust the process until you can't anymore, and then you just blow it all up. And yeah, that seems to be about the average fantasy hockey experience, I think, right?
I think so. Hey, buddy, actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. I just remembered. I went to I get my son skates sharpened today because he's doing hockey. He's 5. He's starting on Sunday. We're doing some skating with the team and everything like that. And yeah, we got a skate sharpen and everything. And they had smelling salts there at Sport Check. And I just randomly, I'm like, you know what? I've always wanted to try it. So I did a workout today, but I got these smelling salts. And buddy, like I almost ralphed right before my workout. Like, I mean, I know they're strong, but like, have you ever used smelling salts before when you play?
I've never used them. I have no intention to.
Oh man, it was pretty like also I should say I took like a bunch of pre-workout and then I did some had some smelling salts. So basically I was, the equivalent of like a cocaine bender while I was trying to, work on my, military press and my leg squats and whatnot. But anyways, just I've definitely recommended. Yeah, hit some smelling salts. I did some before the pod here, so it feels really good.
All right. If there's anybody in the world who doesn't need smelling salts, I'd say it's probably you, Blake. You can probably get by without.
All right, I'll throw it out. I'll throw it in the garbage. That's a good point.
All right. Let's get into some newsies. We got some pretty interesting stuff happening actually in the couple days since we last hit this. We got Valerie Nichushkin confirmed back Friday. So if you drafted Valerie Nichushkin in your league, we were pretty big proponents of that here. Thought it was a pretty good way to spend a double-digit round pick. And yeah, for him to be coming back right here in the middle of November, lots of fantasy hockey left to be played. You're going to love that. What are your thoughts quick up front, Blake? What do you think the deployment is? Does he bump Lehkonen off top power play? Does he bump Middlestat off top power play? Does he play with the top guys, Rantanen and McKinnon at even strength? Quick thoughts.
Yeah, my guess is he lines up on the second line, him and Lecky with Middlestat. I think that's what they like there. And then probably power play 2 to start, just because, yeah, I mean, he's let the team down 2 years in a row, right? Like you gotta kind of earn it a little bit, right? I think he'll start power play 2, but when he does get up to power play 1, which makes total sense, I think he'll probably bump Lehkonen. I think Lehkonen will go down. They like Middlestat there. I mean, I don't know, Middlestat and Nichushkin, bumper and net front, they might switch it up there. So who knows? I don't know. What's your thoughts there?
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I think that line 2 makes sense in my perspective, and I think that power play 2 makes sense at the beginning at least, but I don't think it'll take long before, cold streaks happen all the time, and Nichushkin, in my estimation, is the most talented, at least, of all the other guys outside of the true top end guys there in Colorado. So I don't think it'll take too long. We say that, but we've also seen some other players when they've missed the beginning of the season for one reason or another. Sometimes it does take a while to get back into game shape, and so that's always a possibility as well. But baseline expectation, I think they'll ease him in, but I expect that he'll be back with big time deployment before too long.
Ease them in, boys. Ease them in.
Ease it in. Let's go over to Mark Stone. He was practicing on Sunday. So that's of interest for people. Yeah, I guess the interesting part of Mark Stone was the Nicolas Roy. Uh, I actually looked this up, Blake. So it
I'm
is
glad you did.
Nicolas Roy.
Nicolas Roy. I don't know if that's okay. Yeah, I was going to say Nicholas Roy. That's how we say it here over here on the West Coast. But yeah, continue.
Well, I should actually correct myself because I wrote this down as practicing, but I also wrote it in the notes as did not practice, and I'm going back, and the tweet is not seeing Mark Stone or Nick Hague at practice. So cancel that. Mark Stone not
I
practicing.
thought you had some new information. I thought
Yeah,
because I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, okay. Well, let's carry on.
not practicing Sunday. Obviously, Vegas has a pretty big week this week. They got the 4 games, 4 off nights. So Nicolas Roy making some interest for fantasy hockey managers. I probably should have been on this a little bit more on Friday when I was thinking it through. Yeah, they had that game, and I should have dug deeper into the results there. But I did like after going back and looking at that game and what he was able to do and the deployment that he did get.
Yeah.
I was a little bit more bullish on Wah after that. Obviously, we don't really know at this point how long Stone will be out, but I mean, you're just getting off night after off night as long as Wah is in this position. So I do think Wah is a pretty interesting streamer. Definitely still below Dorofiev for me if you're choosing, but I think I would prioritize him because he has the chance to be a really good streamer if Stone misses the rest of this week here. Other news, Brock Besser, the quote is that he will be out indefinitely. That's not a good sign. That probably means more tests and, yeah, some either concussion symptoms and they're trying to figure out exactly what kind of plan to put him on, or something structural that they need to figure out, which would be even worse in most cases, I would imagine. So, like, yeah, tough to see for Brock Besser. Late blindside hit. Never like to see a player go out for those reasons. Mason McTavish was a game time decision here on Sunday and did not play in the game that's currently going on as we record here. Jonathan Drouin still in non-contact sweater as of Saturday, which was the latest update I could find. So either way, like Nichushkin coming back, Drouin coming back, the Avs are going to be looking pretty good. And like they haven't looked bad the last little bit without it. They just haven't been able to figure out goaltending. I don't know. Maybe one of these guys can strap the pads on. That suddenly they have an abundance of forwards coming in. Maybe they can
Maybe they
figure
get
out
Darcy
something there.
Kemper coming back.
Yeah, maybe they could do that. Max Pacioretty had a lower body injury. Looked like the left hamstring area. He was kind of grabbing at it as he was going off. Um, yeah, we'll have to see. No update as of yet, but could be something to look at, especially if you're looking at streaming in a Toronto player for this week and you're looking at Pacioretty in particular with their Tuesday, Wednesday back to back. Could be useful, especially if you have like a Sharks player playing this Sunday, Monday, and you could come back with a Toronto player for the Tuesday, Wednesday. You're going to have to take a closer look at that. Pacioretty, when he has played, has generated shots, not necessarily points as of late, but shots and hits is what he's been putting together. So he does have some value, especially if your league values those things a lot. And lastly, here, Braden Point practicing Sunday. I have to imagine that he'll be good to go for the Bolts' next game, which doesn't come until this Thursday. So that's good news for all Braden Point managers, and actually kind of makes a really good spot for you where you can
Yeah.
probably leave him on your IR Plus until Thursday, and you can kind of get a free stream in early this week and then drop for Point for the Thursday, Saturday. All right, Blake, I think we should get right into it. I think the people want to hear about some hot shots.
Let's do it.
All right, right off the top, I just want to give some flowers to Nathan McKinnon. I know we're not bringing any new information to the fantasy hockey managers listening to this about Nathan McKinnon, but the guy's pretty good. 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points in his last 5 games here, 24 and a half minutes a night. Shockingly, the underlying metrics look good with Nathan McKinnon. I don't know what much more you can really say about McKinnon that hasn't already been said, but 158-point pace through 15 games here. He's absolutely back and doing the thing. At this point, like I actually haven't checked lines, but like I wonder what the heart lines are looking like at this point because he's got to be making some inroads there on McDavid, who's usually the heart favorite every offseason. Anything you want to add on McKinnon here? Do you think that the additions help him? Is it possible that they help him even more than what he's putting up right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just going to be status quo here. This guy's unbelievable. I think he's the best player in the NHL right now. I mean, not like obviously McDavid is. Maybe that's a hot take. Okay, so McDavid's better, sure, but I think like the mental situation that is very different between those two players. Like Nathan McKinnon's won a cup. I think once you win a cup, that pressure's off. Like you still have that drive. Obviously, McKinnon has that, but you can see McDavid, especially early this year before he got injured, like really gripping the stick. Obviously, we saw the Amazon Prime special. Like there's a lot of pressure on that guy, right? Where McKinnon doesn't have that pressure. He can just go out there and get the biz. So I love McKinnon as a second overall pick. It almost feels like getting first overall when you get McKinnon. I've got him in 2 spots, and it's just automatic. This guy's amazing.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and McKinnon is plus 450 to win the Hart, tied with Kirill Kaprizov at the
Lovely.
moment. You got Kucherov and McDavid at plus 500 each. So there you go. McKinnon now officially the betting line favorite for the Hart, along with Kaprizov. Want to head over to Carolina. We got a few things going on here, a few hot streaks happening. Obviously, Martin Necas, who has been talked about with good reason. He's got 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points in his last 5, just under 17 minutes a night, which is truly unbelievable. 75th shots per 60, 129th individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 32nd in on ice Corsi 4 per 60, and 56th in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. But also you've got Jack Roslovic there. He's got 5 goals and 6 points in his last 5. And you got Dmitry Orlov on the back end, 2 goals, 5 points in his last 5. And yeah, we mentioned it the other night, but Roslovic second in the league in shots per 60 over the last 5, just not getting minutes, 13, just over 13 minutes there. And Orlov at about 19 and a half, 23rd in shots per 60 amongst defensemen. And you know that the on-ice stats are always going to look good when you play on Carolina. Talk to me through each of these guys. First, we'll start off with your boy Natchez and how much you've been loving having him on your teams. But also give me some feedback on Roslovic and Orlov and what you think their value might be for fantasy managers, at least this upcoming week, but also look into the future.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think with this great schedule that Carolina has, these guys are all rosterable players. Obviously, Necas is obviously a must roster, but Roslovic, I think, is a great option there. Was, originally on the top line there, but they're kind of jumbling things around there. RBA doing RBA things. Rod Brindamore, amazing set of abs on this man. Unbelievable. He has like 2% body fat. So shout out to him. Very attractive man. I could talk about that all day. Actually, I'm just going to keep going. No. But anyways, yeah, I like Jack Roslovic a lot. Dmitry Orlov's a fine streamer as well. But yeah, Necas. I would be definitely lying if I thought Necas would do this season. This is not like, yeah, I was really in on Martin Necas. I have him on 6 of my 7 Yahoo teams. 6 of 7. And I was going to draft him right before, like I got sniped with Martin Necas. I would have had him on all 7 at like pick 100 or after. So it's a great value this year. Great start for the season for Necas, but he's running hot, folks. This is not sustainable. This is very much, I'm not interested in selling Martin Necas at this point because I think that he's going to regress negatively, but it's still, even if he regresses to like what he's done previously, like we're still looking at a 70-point player here, like maybe more, but I don't think he's going to regress all that way. This is a guy that's kind of taken a step a little bit this year, and he's received a lot more opportunity from Rod Brindamore because the bottom 6 in Carolina is not as strong as it has been historically. So I love Martin Necas. I mean, he's on 145-point pace. No. I think Martin Necas, with this great start, maybe we're looking at 75, 80 points. If he gets more than that, oh God, that would be so great for my fantasy teams. And that's all that matters, really. How I do in fantasy, but I'm a big fan of this player. It's really that power play. Like he's already got 9 power play points. He had 13 last year in 77 games. He's got 9 in 13 this year. So that was really where I saw, some value with Martin Necas, and that's coming to fruition. So great job. He's not going to keep scoring at this pace here, folks. But another person not going to be scoring at this pace, Jack Roslovic. Okay, he's going nuts. He's got 9 goals and 1 assist in 10 games, buddy. No, but the metrics are good. I don't like what they're doing with the lines here, but definitely a spec ad in this 4-game week for sure. And then Dmitry Orlov, sure. I mean, he's got 8 points in 13 games. Damn. I mean, we got to take notice of that, but it's really the ice time that I don't like with Orlov there. He doesn't get any opportunities, so it's based on massive efficiency. He's shooting 14.3%. That's That's not real. Okay. But definitely a valuable guy, could get you some decent periffs and kind of chip away there. I wouldn't expect this kind of production. But how are you liking the Canes this year, buddy? This team's a wagon.
Yeah, that's been a surprise for me. I did think the Canes would drop off, but turns out that Brind'Amour's that good at coaching that they just keep
Yes, he
rolling no
knows what he's
matter who the
doing, man.
bodies are. Definitely, Nate just having an otherworldly start to the season is helping things out there. I'm curious to throw some would you rather's at you. So we've got he didn't make this list, but because I think nobody's gonna actually do anything about it. But Evan Bouchard could have made the cold list. He's only got one assist in his last 5 games here. He's only got 7 points on the season at this point. Martin Necas or Evan Bouchard rest of the season.
Oh God. Bouchard.
Yeah.
You gotta go Bouchard there. I mean, for the VORP, right? I mean, he's a major buy low. We saw even McDavid the other night got 3 points, and it was a quiet 3 points. He wasn't out there dominating. He was kind of just getting an assist. Someone was making a nice shot, and the Canucks kind of folded there a little bit. But they're gonna get cooking here big time offensively, and you want a piece of Bouchard. So definitely Bouchard there. That's not even a question for me.
All right, let's try another guy who's not been so hot, but was definitely better regarded than Necas at the start of the season, Jason Robertson.
Ooh, you know what kills me, man? Jason Robertson, 2 years ago, Nate and I had one episode, and we talked about Jason Robertson. It was at the height of the J-Rob just phenomenon. This guy was like number one in shots per 60, number one in individual scoring chances per 60. He's just popping the hell off. I don't know. I think that's more of a question. I think Robertson is the logical answer, but Necas is the one actually producing, and Carolina as a team to me are a bit more of a safer bet, which is weird to say for Carolina because of what Rod Brind'Amour does. But in Dallas, they're just rolling the top nine. And when, push comes to shove, we throw Matt Duchene out there. We don't give a damn. Get Matt Duchene out there, Mason Marchment. Let's load these guys up where J-Rob's just picking up the dregs. So, you know what? At this point of season, like, that's spicy. I think that's spicy. I mean, damn, that's a really hard one. You know what? I think you got to go J-Rob there for the potential ceiling, but geez, I mean,
Right.
just because Necas he's gonna fall off a little bit here.
All right, and I got 3 more I'll spread out for you. Just yes or no on these. Matt Tkachuk, famously struggling, not getting the minutes that he's gotten in years past. Zach Hyman, obviously struggling as well. Noah Dobson, who many expected to have a 70-point season, only has 6 assists to his name this year. How would you go with each of those?
Okay, give me the players again. Sorry, so we got Dobson, we got Hyman. Who was the first one?
Matt Tkachuk.
Okay, you got to go Matt Tkachuk. You got to go Hyman, and I'm taking Necas over Dobson. So there you go.
All right.
What are you doing?
I would take all 3 of those over Necas
Oh,
personally.
you son of a gun. No, that's blasphemy. Don't do that. Don't do my boy like that. Damn, Gina. You never saw the show, but you should. It's called Martin. It's from the 90s. All right. Shout out to my Martin fans out there. Hit me up in the DMs. All right. Let's be friends. Oh, buddy. Oh, my
I
God.
just saw it. Yeah, is that what you're going? I was wondering when you'd see it.
All right. All right. Well, I'm first off, just full disclosure, I'm 0-4 in the Apples and Genos Listener League. It's soul crushing. It's brutal. Okay, but I've been streaming my buns off over there, and whatever. God, Leo Carlson scored. Long story short, he scored, and now I'm ahead. I'm gonna win that matchup. Boom, baby. This is what I needed. All right, number one. So I'm 1-4. That feels really good.
Yeah, being 1-4 feels awesome.
I don't even give a damn. This is it, baby. Let's go. That's what I needed.
All right. Well, with that elation aside, let's move over to the Islanders. I think there's some interest here with Bo Horvat and Anders Lee in particular. 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points in the last 5 for Horvat, skating 20 and a half minutes a night there. Anders Lee, 1 goal, 6 points in 5 games, over 18 minutes there. You got Bo Horvat showing up at 28th in shots per 60. You got Anders Lee showing up at 21st in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. They've been doing some funky things with the lines and moving even the power play around a bit here and there, but I think that there could be some interest here. Horvat and Lee are playing together at even strength on what looks like a pretty strong top line. at the moment alongside Jean-Gabriel Pajot, of all people. But talk to me about these two. Do you think that there's anything more going on here, or is this just a flash in the pan for these two players in particular getting hot together at the same time? What do you think?
Oh, they are getting hot together, and that's nice to see. I enjoy watching that. Um, buddy, Leo Carlson. Let's talk about Leo Carlson, Nate. Damn it. Oh, baby. Anyways, sorry everybody. Yeah, I mean, Bo Horvat, 28th in shots on goal per 60 over the last 5. That's really nice. He's a great player. Bo Horvat is a glue guy that, he's like a 65 to 70 point player, amazing at faceoffs. He's a guy you want on your team, no question. But I don't like what's going on there on the island. I feel like there's a little bit like things are in flux, even like at every position, it seems like to me. So even on defense, they're like, no, we got Noah Dobson. No, we're putting Mike Riley on the power play. Okay. You got Ilya Sorokin in net. No, we're putting Semyon Varlamov out there, right? We're doing that, right? And now Matt Barzal is obviously injured. So Horvat's going to have to take on a bigger load. But yeah, I didn't draft these guys anywhere. Anders Lee is a streamer. So we talked about him a couple weeks ago because he was just playing out of his mind with amazing metrics. And now he's getting the minutes too. So I certainly think they're both Anders Lee is rosterable. Obviously, Bo Horvat is must roster, but yeah, this is going to fall off. Although, I mean, Horvat's, it's not exactly like he's scoring a ton, right? Like if you look at the 5 games here, shooting percentage 10%, that's pretty reasonable. On a shooting percentage 11%, that's pretty reasonable. So, I mean, it's all dependent on if the Islanders can find their offense in a consistent way, and I just haven't seen that yet, right? It seems like they're boom or bust this year, mostly bust, right? Famously getting shut out 4 times in as many games that they played. So, long story short, I think I didn't draft them for a reason. I'm not interested. I think Anders Lee is an interesting piece for sure as a streamer, but I don't know. That's my take there. How are you liking these Islanders?
Yeah, I have some passing interest, I guess I would call it at this point. I think there could be something to what's going on there at the moment. If you look at our 5v5 numbers over the last couple of weeks, the Islanders are on the plus side of that. Corsi for percentage, scoring
Nice.
chance for percentage at 5v5, both on the positive side of things. So that's a good thing. And yeah, these guys are obviously contributing to that at the moment. They're playing together. They're benefiting from each other, playing well at the moment. Anders Lee has terrific metrics on the season: 3rd in shots per 60, 5th in individual scoring chances for per 60 on the season. Yeah, that's those are pretty good numbers for a guy like Anders Lee. It's given me some pause at the moment. I'm not like totally recalibrating my preseason projections yet or anything like that drastic, but my short-term anticipation for them has definitely improved over where I thought it would be. I think that in here, I just want to kind of give a general lesson is that sometimes we get perceptions of teams. We know that they're struggling. They lose Matt Barzal, their best offensive player, and we just write off everybody on the island. We say we don't want anybody from there. They can't produce anything. And that's been proven to be untrue time and time again, but it's a really nice narrative that we all love to fall into. I fall into it too from time to time. I'm
Look
just
at the
like, yeah,
Leafs.
but it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it's these guys. They can't do it without that guy, and so I'm not gonna even look at this guy or check out his numbers the last little bit or check out the deployment. I'll just go with this other guy who I've streamed in the past and he's been good in the past. That's not necessarily a good indicator of what's going to happen over the next little bit. So that's kind of the lesson I want to take away here is that sometimes there are these little pockets of value we can get throughout the season, even in places where we don't expect to see it. Speaking of that, Nicolas Roy wanted to talk about him
Ooh.
here and give him his due credit for the 2 goals, 6 points in his last 5 games. He's been getting good minutes even before Stone went out with the injury and he got that top line, top power play deployment there on Friday. He's been over 16 minutes, 46th in shots per 60, 30th individual scoring chances for per 60. That'll play. Yeah, I don't know that I expect Watt to like turn into a long-term fantasy hold or anything that unreasonable, but definitely he's feeling it at the moment. He's got the deployment at the moment, and I'm willing to ride with that at the moment. Blake, do you have any hope beyond just the moment for Nicolas Watt?
No, but you know what? This is a great week. This is a great moment for Nicolas Roy. Yeah, I can't even say it properly. Yeah, 4 games, all off nights. Like this guy's a must add for this week. I do think Mark Stone is going to miss at least 2 games. That's my thought. If he misses the whole week, we're loving life. Waugh he got line one, and he played power play one. Power play one. Waugh was out there with Hurdle, Eichel, and Dorofiev. So that's a great spot to be. I mean, I'm going Dorofiev first, but Waugh is a close second in terms of streamers here on Vegas for this upcoming week. He can absolutely do some stuff, and he's been putting up some decent metrics, like you said. But to be honest, like, it's not a player I've seen a ton of tape on. Like, I just think this is like a perfect storm where he's going to get some opportunity in a week where he can really help your team. So yeah, pick him up and, deal with the rest on the back end. Like, if you get 2 games out of him with that great deployment, that's a win. Right. And you could probably hold him for the rest of the week anyway. He was doing stuff on line 3 with that beauty, Keegan Colasar. All right. You need to get Keegan Colasar he's a distant third between Dorofiev and Waugh, but get Keegan Colasar in your life. This guy's a beefer. Oh, I love it.
I just want everybody to note that was Blake's advice to pick up.
No.
Colasar.
No, we'll edit that out. No, this is Apple. We have one team, one stream. We talked about this, Nate. All right.
All right. Well, let's continue on down the list. Alex Laferriere, I had to put him in. I really didn't want to talk about Alex Laferriere.
Talk to me more about Alex Laferriere, Nate.
I didn't want to talk about him any more than I absolutely had to this week for reasons we'll get to a little later on. But 3 goals, 6 points in his last 5, over 60.5 minutes a night. Underlying metrics look pretty good. Blake, you can victory lap. You can do whatever you want to with the Alex Laferriere talk right here.
Buddy, no, I would never do that to you. All right. I'll save it for later. Okay. Yeah, we really gotta hit that exclamation point at the end of the show. But yeah, this guy's, you know what? Shout out to Josh. I will always shout out Josh for Alex Laferriere. This is not a player that was on my radar until he brought him up to me. And, he's a good player, but he's also getting opportunity. He's on the third line, but that third line's pretty damn nice. He's playing with Warren Fogle and Quentin Byfield a lot of times, that's a nice spot to be, right? I mean, that's in flux as it, they kind of move things around a little bit, but he's on power play 1, and that's really where he's going. So yeah, metrics, opportunity equal a beautiful streamer for the Los Angeles Kings. Plus, he's a beefer. All right. He does that. He bangs. He does that. He's a very angry man, beautiful head of hair. I mean, Alex Laferriere, what can't you do?
Yeah, well, one thing I would bet that he can't do is sustain a 46-goal, 77-point pace for the entire season, at least not with some pretty significant changes in deployment. The underlying metrics do look great. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but I mean, the guy's shooting 24% on the season, 16% on ice shooting percentage. Both of those are going to come down pretty conclusively. So yeah, I mean, Laferriere, could he be like an actual hold for the rest of the season? I think that's possible. I don't know that's necessarily the most likely. I'd still put that maybe like 50-50 that he's actually like worth holding for the rest of the season. But yeah, it's definitely a good stretch for him. Definitely he's been hot. It theoretically should result in him sustaining more minutes and more ice time throughout the rest of the season. In this last 5-game stretch, he's up about a minute from his season-long total. So yeah, all that's looking good under the hood. He's playing on the top power play still. He's actually kind of held on to that role pretty well. A lot of people, myself included, had Quentin Byfield penciled in on that spot, but he's held on to that. He's obviously got a role there that they feel is working for them, and so he's held on. And so that's a good spot to be. And then, yeah, if you can build on that, I mean, it's the Kings, so they're probably going to roll that top 9 every time anyway. So there's probably not too much he's going to get more in the way of minutes there. But being on top power play, getting the underlying metrics that he's been getting, I think this is a guy that you can feel reasonably excited about, potentially just being a guy that you'll hold on to rest of season. And then last year on the hot shots, we got Noah Hanifin. He's got 3 goals and 5 points in his last 5, over 22.5 minutes average time on ice. 31st shots per 60, 57th individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 54th and 48th in Corsi 4 per 60 and scoring chances 4 per 60 respectively. Now all of a sudden you look up and he's on a 18-goal, 47-point pace, and the world isn't falling for Hanifin managers if you manage to hang on to him. I know he was dropped in a fair number of leagues. So where's your temperature at on Hanifin for the rest of the season? So far it's been only Shea Theodore, top power play. Vegas has really stuck to that throughout the first part of the season here. Do you think there's a chance Hanifin gets back up on there throughout the rest of the season? Would you expect that you should probably move off of him because this is the best stretch that he's going to have for the season? What would you be recommending people do with Noah Hanifin now?
Just hold him and enjoy what's going on, right? I think there is a good chance he'll moonlight on power play one, but I think we've seen that Theodore is the premier offensive defenseman on that team, and he should be on power play one, and he's done a lot with that power play one deployment. So that said, I mean, Hanifin's a very valuable player in real life. He's pacing for the same amount of points that he was last year, like 47. He had 48-point pace last year. This is who Hanifin is. He's very consistent. And I think the main thing with him is there was disappointment because we thought he was going to get power play one and maybe sort of blast through that ceiling a little bit that he's had, right? He's never been power play one on a team. He had 13 power play points. That's his highest power play point total, and that was last year. I thought there was a really good chance he was going to smash that. Probably not this year, but he's still a really valuable player and definitely one you want to have. That said, too, like the goal scoring, he's shooting 12% right now, which is that's going to come down. He's not going to get 18 goals, but I think 10 goals is absolutely reasonable for this player. 47 points. If you value him that way, like this is just one of those boring fantasy players that you have on your team all year, and he's going to get the job done and do what you drafted him to do.
Yeah, I would not change a word about what you just said. That's pretty much exactly my view of Hanifin. Yeah, the one thing I guess that's probably worth mentioning with Shea Theodore, I agree. Shea Theodore definitely like the by far the most offensively talented defenseman on that team. He would be on the vast majority of teams around the NHL. He hasn't scored in what is this 11 games now. He has put up assists like decently regularly, but it's definitely not like been a home run. Like he came out of the gate right with the 5 points in the first two games, and everybody's like, Shea Theodore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of only been assists interspersed in there. He doesn't really hit. He doesn't really block. He doesn't do a lot of that other stuff for you. He's a decent shot producer. But yeah, I think there's at least a chance at some point that the Vegas Golden Knights decide that Shea Theodore, maybe we can use your talents at even strength and we'll try Hanifin here if the power play goes cold for whatever reason. It's just one of the levers they can pull, and I think that there's a pretty good chance that happens at some point throughout the season. So I won't be surprised about that when it does come through. All right, before we get over to the have nots, quick plug for the Patreon supporter tier. $2 a month gets you access to Patreon only live shows. If you are listening or watching to this on Monday, there's going to be one happening tonight. After I do the puzzling players segment, I will be going straight into the Patreon only live show where I'm going to go through all my waiver wire process and take you behind the scenes, how I'm thinking about the week, how I'm setting up for the week, the ads that I'm making, all that. So definitely going to be a good show. Something that I think just getting granular with for people will probably really help some people out. So $2 a month, you can jump in and join that after the Puzzling Players live stream. There'll be links in the Discord server to get at that if you're signed up on Patreon. The $8 a month tier, Apples gets you the Patreon only live shows, gets you the Patreon only Discord channels, gets you show notes for this flagship podcast, gets you show notes for the Waiver Wire podcast, gets you all those ranks and all the players that I'm targeting long term as well. And it also gets you access to the Apples and Genos player evaluation tool, which is what Blake and I use to bring you all the stats up to date all the time. If you are a true degenerate, the $15 a month Genos tier gets you all those perks and also guarantees that I'll answer every single one of your questions for the duration of the fantasy season. With that said, Blake, it's now time to do some have-nots, and we got to start in Ottawa. Claude Giroux. This is pretty interesting because we talked about Claude Giroux. We
Yep.
talked about Josh Norris as just lighting the world on fire. They were on that line with Drake Batherson, and everything was going right. And then just as quickly as it like crescendoed, it's now completely gone silent over there. Claude Giroux has 0 points in his last five. Josh Norris has the one goal. So talk to me about what's going on in Ottawa, what your thoughts are with these guys. Obviously, there's some name brand with Claude Giroux still, but Josh Norris has been a guy that's been picked up by a lot of people this year, still only 24% rostered on Yahoo. And so people are probably wondering if they should be hanging on to him. What would be your advice around the Ottawa situation?
Yeah. I mean, To me, like Giroux, obviously he's had a good start to the season here, but it was never sustainable, right? And now he's back down to a 64-point pace, which is what he had last year. He's old faithful. You know what I mean? This is one of those distinguished gentlemen that, yeah, he's just really good at hockey, right? Like he's like a lower level Crosby, right? Where, yeah, he's just going to go out there and do what he does. One thing about Giroux, he's getting power play 2 on the season. And I don't think that's going to change, right? So he loses a little bit there. I think 60 points, 64 points is probably where he lives. So again, just value him appropriately. He's still shooting like a pretty high shooting percentage, 16.7% on the year. So there's a good chance that comes down. And then without the power play time, yeah, it's not a player I've ever been excited about. I don't have him anywhere. Josh Norris to me though, I still am holding out hope. I love the deployment. I love the opportunity that Norris has. But yeah, the metrics really don't match up, and they never have. You know, like I like, at least in the last 5 games, he's getting some scoring chances, which is really nice. But on the season, it's just, yeah, it's a slog. Like this is a good example of one of those guys that's better in real life than maybe for fantasy. So it's, I don't know. I understand the rostership there, like the 25%. That sort of makes sense. Should be higher though, because we're looking at a guy who's on power play 1, and it should be a good power play there in Ottawa. So,
Yeah.
I mean, long story short, I think Norris is a holdable player. Should probably be on a roster here. He does bang as well. He's decent in category leagues as well. Giroux is a player I don't have anywhere, and I'm not excited about. Like if you have Giroux, I think that's a good trade bait. You know, I mean, he has some name brand there. Maybe you can parlay that into someone who's a little bit more exciting, who does a little bit better under the hood. But yeah, Norris is a good streamer. If he's off power play 1 though, I'm definitely out on Norris. That's not something I'm into.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a tough situation right now in Ottawa to really figure out. For me, anyway, they're casting about a bit, trying to figure out what's going on.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it is a tough situation. Obviously, new coach this year changes things. I will say, like the 5v5 numbers look really good for this team. They're 5th in the league in Corsi for percentage over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, like there's nothing bad to say about what's going on under the hood at 5v5. The results just haven't been there, right? The actual goals for and goals against just hasn't quite come through. They are negative on the PDO, 8.4% shooting percentage at even strength during that time. Some of these things just will bounce back in the right way. So I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm super nervous. Like Norris, 53rd in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 19 minutes. These guys are getting plenty of minutes. That part is still there. Yeah, I kind of feel like they're just kind of like going through all the highs and lows at once,
Yeah.
and they should eventually settle into about honestly where I had them projected. I
Yeah.
don't feel nothing about what I've seen so far has really changed a lot for me in terms of the projections. I think I was a little bit more nervous about Norris just getting ice time coming back. Shane Pinto had that really good end to last year. Obviously, Pinto's been injured, and Norris has really stepped up in a lot of ways with Pinto being out. So I had Norris at 16 and a half minutes average time on ice. Now he's getting 19 plus. So that obviously changes the equation there. I had Norris for 24 goals, 45 points at that deployment. You
Mhm.
can obviously do the math. He's going to get significantly more with an additional 3 minutes time on ice. But Drew, this is kind of where I had him, and I had him ended up at about 62 points on the season. And that to me still feels like it's probably in the wheelhouse there. So you can kind of do with that what you will. I just think that, yeah, we probably had the highs and the lows within this like a 3 week period all smushed together. And
Yeah.
usually it's a bit more spread out than that. And that's why people freak out both positively and negatively when these things happen. But I don't think you need to do that. I think they will be just fine, but maybe not quite as incendiary as some might have thought earlier on. Moving on, I really do want to talk about Noah Dobson, 0 points in his last 5. The guy's been skating over 27 and a half minutes a night. Still 17th in the league amongst all defensemen, shots per 60. The scoring chances have not been there, so he's not really like activating, getting down low and getting those extra chances, I guess. But 68th, Corsi 4 per 60, 57th, scoring chances 4 per 60. It really does seem like Wah is prioritizing him in like all situations that matter for fantasy, and so he's getting all those minutes. that part is pretty interesting to me. He's still not like a big penalty killer, but obviously he's the top power play guy, and that top pair, like Isaiah George, is playing with Noah Dobson on the
Yeah,
top
I
pair
love
and
that.
getting a
Yeah.
crazy amount of minutes, and like it's working essentially in everywhere except the final score sheet at the moment. So I actually consider Noah Dobson to be one of the biggest buy lows in fantasy hockey right now. I really wanted to shout him out here because I do think, yeah, like 17 shots per 60, that's still happening for him. You see, like, it's not necessarily that the team can't score. Like I said, at 5v5, they're at least keeping pace a little bit above in terms of the chance generation versus chances against. So they're not getting caved in. It's not like, yeah, a situation where you have to be truly worried about them just not being able to generate anything at all. And so, yeah, I'm kind of left in the spot where I see Noah Dobson not producing anything, and I'm pretty sure there are some fantasy managers out there with Dobson on their team, and they're blaming him for their fantasy team's lack of success. And I'm ready to be the guy that jumps in there and makes an offer. So I don't know how you feel about that, Blake, but obviously you weren't ready to dip Natchez for Noah Dobson, but maybe we could find somebody a little further down the tree that you'd be willing to do.
How about Heiskanen for Dobson? Straight up, I'll do that immediately. Please give me Noah Dobson, someone who's actually shooting the puck, buddy. Oh my god, yeah, I like Dobson a lot, and I'm glad to see these minutes. To be honest, I haven't been checking in with Dobson very often because it wasn't a player I had anywhere. But I love to see the deployment, right? Like that's excellent, and I thought that Patrick Waugh was minimizing him before, right? But clearly, with he played 29 minutes the other night. Damn.
Yeah.
This guy's going to get going here. Like you said, I love your point about when a team loses an offensive player, it's like, oh, all right, whatever, let's jump ship here. Like it's not the case. They've actually kind of pulled up their bootstraps and put together some good games here, right? And other guys are stepping up, and I think Dobson will have his shot here. So, yeah, it's a great buy low, and yeah, if send us your trades if you get Noah Dobson. I would love to hear what it takes to get Noah Dobson out there on Yahoo in some of these competitive leagues.
All right, let's do a quick would you rather on Dobson. Just a yes or no, Blake. Would you trade Brandon Montour for Noah Dobson?
Yes.
Would you trade Adam Fox for Noah Dobson?
No.
Would you trade, you did Heiskanen, would you trade John Carlson for Noah Dobson?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that puts me in the same spot. Yeah, pretty interesting. I
Yeah.
think there's definitely something to be done there for some people. If you know the Noah Dobson manager and they're a little bit squirrely on stuff like this, there might be something there. All right, moving on from Noah Dobson. Basically, all of Montreal is cold right now. It's been widely publicized. I mean, it's Montreal. It's going to get talked about in the media here in Canada. Kirby Doc, Mike Matheson, Cole Caulfield, Juraj Slakowski, all these guys. Yeah, not doing too much at the moment. All just 1 point in their last five, except actually Matheson has 0 points in his last five. Nick Suzuki has 2 points in his last five. Underlying metrics not looking hot. The best number for any of these players over the last little bit is Mike Matheson is 36th amongst all defensemen in on ice scoring chances 4/60 over the last 5 games. Yeah, nothing working very well at the moment for Montreal. Talk to me about this, Blake. They've tried a bunch of things. Slavkovsky off the top line. Um, that's clearly not really working out for anybody either. Yeah, what do you think they need to do here? What do you think could happen? Are you trying to buy low? Are you worried about Cole Caulfield at this point after a really hot start? What do you make of the Montreal situation?
Just drop them all and sign Brendan Gallagher. All right. That's the guy who's popping the hell off. He's got amazing metrics, actually, by the way. Anyways, I am a little bit concerned for sure. Cole Caulfield is the main concern here for me because he's not shooting, right? And then I saw an article recently where it's actually a conscious choice by Cole Caulfield to be more selective with his shots. Like that's even worse. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing, man? Like, just go with what you know. Don't try and reinvent the wheel, in the middle of a crap season that you guys are having. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning there with Caulfield. These guys are all by lows. There's no question. Nick Suzuki's not a player that I'm ever really interested in. Neither are you, I don't think. Although he does show in the micro stats, he does that. He's a great facilitator. But think Mark Stone, right? Like that's kind of the level there, and maybe even less. I don't know. But yeah, I'm still interested in Slavkovsky. I'm still interested in Caulfield. And then Doc is a great streamer for Montreal if you can. But it's right now is not the time to be streaming Montreal, and these guys stink right now. They need to kind of figure it out. It's a bad stretch for sure. Oh yeah, and then Matheson, yeah, like he's not even bringing the periffs. That's killing me actually with Matheson, because to me that's really a nice floor there that you usually get with Matheson, and he's not really doing that. Like 0 hits in his last 2 games. He's got 2 hits in the last, oh God, what is that, like 10 games? Damn, buddy, like what happened? Did he just go to therapy and like all of a sudden he's just much lighter? He feels happy. He's carefree. He doesn't give a damn. I mean, he is bringing blocks to the table, so I'm yammering on the man, but yeah, he's still blocking stuff, but no hits. The shots are down a little bit. I don't know. I still like Matheson's still a hold for me. I'm not too concerned there with him. He's on a 49-point pace. He got 62 last year. 62 is like absolute ceiling for Matheson. That's not what you should expect from the player. But if he gets 49, I mean, that's a great season for Matheson. I think that's really good. And their power play hasn't been terrible. It hasn't been great lately, but still converting reasonably. I don't know. Who are you concerned with out of these players here? Like, talk to me about Caulfield and Slavkovsky, because I think those are the two that, people probably have the most questions on.
Yeah, it is tough for sure. Like I said, the underlying metrics are not giving us a whole lot of hope at the
Yeah.
moment. I think like they gotta figure out with Caulfield, like, hey man, you gotta shoot the puck.
Yeah.
Like
Get back
we
to
don't
business.
we don't care if you end up with 40 goals and 10 assists. Like you got to be the guy that puts the biscuit in the basket, because honestly, no one else is really capable of it. It's got to be that's got to be the route that the offense goes. Mike Matheson, I think he still looks pretty good, man.
Yeah, he's a great
Um,
skater.
Great skater, fun to watch every time I get to watch a Montreal game, which is pretty often. They play the Leafs pretty often, and obviously I'm watching the Leafs more than other games. But yeah, I mean, still getting 25 minutes, and I honestly don't think. I know we're hyped about Lane Hudson in general because he looks cool when he skates. And legitimately, like he's got great offensive potential. I'm not trying to take it away from him, but he is still just a kid. Martin St. Louis is going to try to win games at some point here. He doesn't have anybody on that defense. It's one of the worst defense cores in the league for sure. Matheson's going to play all the minutes, all the time, as the true number one. And yeah, I think he still gives them the best chance to win every time he's on the ice. So I think he gets out there a lot. I think Caulfield figures it out. I think we have enough sample size on Caulfield to say that pretty conclusively at this point. Slavkovsky's a weird one. Obviously, being off the top line doesn't help. That's going to be a tough spot for anybody to produce when your line mates are Jake Evans and Alex Newhook. It's going to be tough to produce. So that's a tough look. I really thought that Slavkovsky, Caulfield, Suzuki would be the one thing that worked for the Canadians this year. It's a small stretch still. I don't think that we need to like write off the season or anything at this point, but I do think that they need to get Slavkovsky back on that line and let them have at least one thing that's working. And like you said, Gallagher's making that other line go, the Dvorak Anderson line, even though those two guys are kind of dead weight as well. Yeah, I think there's a few ways in which this can still work out for these guys, but they got to figure it out themselves. And yeah, it is starting to be a bit of a hot seat situation for Martin St. Louis at this point. We got to move over to Patrick Kane here. This is a guy. When I look back at my Kickuffle Tier 1 auction draft, the like single regret that or I don't know if it was a regret, but the one where I was like, I think I could have allocated those dollars better was picking up Patrick Kane. I think it was like $16 that I paid for Patrick Kane. And I was like, I probably could have just put that somewhere else and got more value for it. And Patrick Kane has not had a good little run here. 1 assist in his last 5. He's now on pace for only 47 points on the season. I mean, he's still getting just about 19 minutes a night. So tell me what my panic level should be with Patrick Kane at the moment, Blake.
I mean, panic level, I don't know. I didn't have a big projection on this guy either, but I mean, 65 to 70 points, that's still that's a player you're happy to have on your team, right? But I just don't like the situation in Detroit in general, like how they're just so reliant on efficiency. And it's just like, it reminds me of St. Louis, right? Like they've done that in the past. I don't like it. That's the situation I want to avoid in fantasy hockey. Guys that are on heaters, right? Like Andrei Kuzmenko, but has like a whole team, you know what I mean? When he scored 27%, like, yeah, I just don't like that. But that said, like you said, Patrick Kane's still getting the good deployment, at least on the power play. But I mean, his even strength line, no thanks. Like
Yeah.
Andrew Kopp and JT Comfort, like the two biggest no thoughts on the team. It's just like, oh God, what is he supposed to do out there, right? So I really think the emergence of, Lucas Raymond, obviously DeBrincat and Larkin have some good chemistry as well. So it's just kind of rendering Kane a little bit useless at even strength. So now we're looking at just sort of a power play specialist here. And, it's just not a player I think is really going to bounce back to a maybe even a 70-point level this year. I think we're looking at probably 55 to 65 point Patrick Kane this year. And that should still be okay, right? As long as he stays healthy, but he's never been an efficient player, Patrick Kane, either, even on the wings. He's shooting 7.1% here, which, that's pretty stinky, even for him, like his standards. I think that's actually the lowest of his career. Yeah. 7.1% is the lowest of Patrick Kane's career. So I think he's got a little headroom there to do some more, but I'd love to see them move him up the lineup. Like, I know your thoughts on Lucas Raymond, like, and I know he's a left winger, but DeBrincat can go both sides there. I think he'll get a chance on line one here again at some point. And if he does, I think we have a better chance of seeing some production. That's common sense. But I don't know. What did you think? I don't remember your projection for Patrick Kane, but what did you have him for? Was it 70?
Had him for 74, yeah, based off how well he came
Yeah,
in at the end of last year.
he did.
Yeah, basically, I guess DeBrincat's getting a little bit more of the run than I expected. That being said, like the actual time on ice is not that different. He
Yeah.
has had runs on the top line alongside Larkin, so that part is still possible. I had him for an 11.1% shooting percentage. Obviously, right now, as you mentioned, at 7.1. So yeah, he should do better by more than 50% there. The on ice shooting percentage at 12.9% on the season. That's probably a little hot, but he's only got a 53% IPP, and Kane, throughout his career, even last year, has always been a guy who commands a pretty high IPP. So overall, I think I'm a little bit more bullish still than you. Like, as long as he's getting 18 plus minutes a night, I think I'm still going to be overall happy with Patrick Kane's results. I don't think I'm going to drop him. But yeah, definitely when he's on the second line with JT Compher and Andrew Kopp, like
Yeah.
it's
Ew.
just stinky.
Ew.
And yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the Detroit players or Detroit team in general. The goaltending has really buoyed them throughout most of this season. If and when that goes away a little bit, this could get ugly for this team unless, they really get somebody else stepping up that's unexpected at this point. So that's where I'm at on Kane, just adjusting expectations a little bit there. Braden Shen is a player that I wanted to mention here because he's obviously been a guy in the past where, he can step into your lineup. He's a great streamer. He does
Yep.
that. But he's pretty cold at the moment. I thought that he'd be a really good pickup with Rob Thomas out of the lineup for a while. He's got just one assist in his last five, playing 18 and a half minutes, so he is getting good deployment there, but now on pace for 27 points on the season. Talk to me about Braden Shen at this point. Do you think that he'll turn this thing around? Last game, playing with Kyrou and Buchnevich on a top line and on the top power play. What do you think here, Blake?
I think you give him another week to figure it out, right? St. Louis has a really nice schedule this upcoming week, 4 games with 2 off nights. So it's a great guy to have on your team. If you already have him, like, just hold him and see what he does. He's getting the deployment. Keep trying him out there. Power play 1, line 1. So he's just not doing a damn thing. And I don't like what's going on there in St. Louis. I mean, that's an easy thing to say after you get pumped 8-1, right? Like they just lost an 8-1 game, and they lost another game recently, 8-2 or something like that. Like, it's not great there in St. Louis. And, the injury to Rob Thomas is pretty painful, right? Because he was a key penalty killer, a minute muncher, right? And an offensive force, honestly, which is a weird thing to say about, I'm not crazy. I'm just, that's a weird thing to say about Rob Thomas, but he does that. This guy's, he's very valuable to the team, not just in fantasy. So yeah, it's big shoes to fill, and they're not really doing it. And just hearing some of the quotes coming out of the team too, like they're embarrassed. They're like, that's unacceptable. Justin Falk came out like just lacing into the team. Braden Shen is, taking a lot of responsibility himself. So it's not a good situation there. So a four game week is nice, but I'm expecting it to, it's going to be a slow burn, maybe another couple bad games before they sort of figure things out. But yeah, Braden Shen, like he's shooting a ridiculous percentage on the season. His like last year, he shot 11.8%. This year, 2.8. Okay. That's probably going to go up, folks. He's due for some goals. He's shooting pretty decently. He's obviously a beefer. He hits. He's got 0 points on the power play, even though he's power play 1 now. Something's got to give. This is a streaky player too. I remember that last year. He was on my Sell High show, and then he'd go away. Then he'd be on my Sell High show, then he'd go away. So it's streaky player. He'll be able to do some stuff, but just don't expect the world here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that I'm expecting a good week for Braden Shen this week, regardless. And yeah, it's a good spot for him to be in where he's got to step up. He's the captain. I'm sure he feels all of that. So
Yep.
I'm expecting a solid week for Braden Shen here. If that does happen, then yeah, I wouldn't mind moving him off for the next streamer that comes along. Like, I don't view him as anything more than that. He's definitely not a guy that I expect to like change the course of my fantasy season, but definitely some value there if you picked him up and you're wondering if you should hold him through this week. Last year, want to talk through Dallas's top guys one more time. I know we've talked about them a fair
Pain.
bit, but Wyatt Johnson, Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, all just 1 point in their last 5 games here. Rope Hintz just over 15 and a half minutes average time on ice. That's not good, but he's ninth in individual scoring
Yeah.
chances for per 60 over that spin. So figure that one out. Talk to me about, start wherever you want, Blake. This is pretty messy. How are you feeling about Dallas and these guys in particular?
Not good. Okay. It's weird to see a path through this for Dallas. Like you've got these guys on your team and you used some good draft capital, like Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, Miro Heiskanen. And Matt Duchene is the only one eating really, and Mason Marchment and Tyler Seguin. And that seems to be sort of the way it's going. But I mean, Dallas is doing a lot of the right things anyway. Corsi for percentage, even the last couple weeks here, like second best in the league. So still doing what they need to do there. In terms of actual wins, like they're two wins and 3 losses in the last few games. Their penalty killing is stunk. Right, they haven't been able to stop the puck on the power play, and their power play has been bone dry. So I mean, as a fantasy manager, it seems like I would love to see them just go with the number 1 power play and prioritize a number 1 line, right? But obviously this is fantasy and that's real life. So it's really hard to say who's gonna get what. But I mean, when you dig in on these guys like Wyatt Johnston, massive buy low, right? The scoring chances, like that's something he's done very consistently throughout his career, and he's gotten better at, and he's still doing it this year. He's still getting a ton of individual scoring chances for, but the shots on goal per 60, not great, right? I'll let you talk about that, but I'm not as concerned about Wyatt Johnston. I think I feel good about picking him up as a buy low. Jason Robertson, however, it's a little bit painful there. Like that's a player in particular where I'm like, I don't know if I see how, it kind of writes itself. I feel like now there's a potential that Jason Robertson could be like a 70-point player, like 65 Jason Robertson. Is that even in the realm of possibilities? Like maybe. And just the fact to say maybe, it's like, oh, that stinks because you spent like a 3rd round pick on this guy or a 4th round pick potentially. So I need to see a little bit more there. The power play is like 1A, 1B. They're really evening the lines there. And then Heiskanen, I know you didn't have him on here, but sheesh. Like, is this guy going to get a point again? Is he going to score? Like, he's a great defenseman in real life. We know this. He's an amazing skater, drives play, but nothing is happening offensively for Miro Heiskanen here, and that's very concerning. Who's the other guy here? Rupe Hintz. Yeah, I like Rupe Hintz. I mean, I hate sort of, again, he's getting bounced around lines here, but I don't know. I would say I'd like to hear how you rank these players, kind of just rest of season, how you feel about the players. Like for me, I feel like in terms of security, I feel like it's Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, Hintz, and Heiskanen for me. That's sort of how I would do it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way that I would do it. I think Robertson still has the highest ceiling of
Mm-hmm.
any of these
Yep.
guys. Wyatt Johnston right behind him. But yeah, I feel honestly not bad at all about Johnston at the moment. He's on pace for 38 points on the season, but he's averaging 19 minutes a night, which is as good as it gets in Dallas. 55% IPP, 3.3% shooting percentage, 8.7% on ice shooting percentage. Like those are all just metrics that scream positive regression and soon. So that part does not have me worried about Wyatt Johnston. 26 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5 as well. Pucks are going to start going in for Wyatt Johnston, and they'll start going in bunches, I have no doubt.
Let's go.
Jason Robertson, yeah, the underlying metrics are just not as good. The time on ice is not as good, but you still know that this is a guy who can be really efficient. A guy that is like historically has been the guy they lean on at even strength, especially when they're down in games. That's all still true of Jason Robertson. And so I think he has the highest ceiling here, but I'm definitely adjusting expectations. I think I had him for 90 points at the beginning of the season as my projection. Now I'd project him more in like a 75-point range if I had to do it again rest of season. Obviously, it'll be tough for him to get to 75 points now that he's kind of started back of that line. But if you're taking from today and doing a point pace rest of season, I think 75-point pace might be the new expectation for Jason Robertson. And then Rupe Hintz, yeah, baby dry, still efficient, but the on ice shooting percentage has not been there. And more concerningly, the ice time dropping off more for Hintz than the other guys. And so that's got me adjusting expectation there as well with him. Heiskanen, I think I mentioned this before. I've never been really high on Heiskanen. He just doesn't really do the things that we like the most for fantasy. He's not a big time goal scorer, not a big time shooter, doesn't hit much, decent at blocks. But yeah, I've never been that excited about rostering Heiskanen. He's always gone higher than I want to draft him in all my leagues for the last number of years. I just feel like he's definitely underproducing. I should say that. It will
Yeah.
get better for Miro Heiskanen. I'm not really concerned about that part of it, but I'm feeling a little bit vindicated just based on the fact that he was always going too high for me. So that's my current situation with those guys. Blake, we have to get over. Do you want to? You just typed it in. You could hear the typing going on, and Heiskanen's underlying numbers look pretty good. He's first in Corsi 4 per 60 and scoring chances 4 per 60 amongst all defensemen in the last 5 games. So, shout out to Miro Heiskanen. Underlying numbers still look good for him. Pucks will go in there, I'm sure. I just don't know that. Whatever you were expecting out of Heiskanen, if you drafted him, you probably should have been a little bit lower on him from the start. I think I still had him for like 65 points, but if your league has any bangers waiting, shots waiting, it just takes him a notch down relative to a lot of
Yeah.
other guys who do a bit more in the peripheral categories. So that's where I'm at with Heiskanen. We got to move on. We got to get to Under the Hood, which is talking about a little guy named Cutter Goche this week. Took these stats before the game today, in which he did get an assist, but prior to tonight, 1 assist in his last 5, 4 on the season, 14 minutes, 43 seconds average time on ice. So obviously not getting a full complement of minutes there. But first in the league in individual shot attempts per 60 is Cutter Goche. So he's chucking pucks with the best of them. 10.0 shots per 60. That's a number that we really like to see. 11 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Love to see that as well. He actually
Yeah.
leads Anaheim in Corsi 4 percentage and scoring chance 4 percentage. Good things are happening when he's on the ice, but Greg Cronin will never notice because of the Greg Cronin hellscape TM. I don't know, Blake. I feel excited about Cutter Gautier's potential. That's where I'm at. I feel very excited about Cutter Gautier's potential. These pucks will go in for him. I have no doubt. I feel that it is probably going to be next year when Greg Cronin is out of town and when some new coach comes in and really takes this team to another level. That's where I'm at right now. What are your thoughts on Cutter Gauthier?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more to add. This is a guy that needs ice time, and he's not getting it. Plain and simple. So everything under the hood looking good, but they like even just tonight, like his line was the lowest 5-on-5 deployed line, and he was on power play too. So what the hell are we doing here? Come on, this guy's chucking pucks, buddy. Get him on the ice. Greg Cronin, what the hell is happening? Yeah, I love that he's a beefer too. So I do think that, yeah, if Anaheim stinks again this year, which they already do, they're pretty much the worst team in the league, or one of them. What kind of leash does Greg Cronin have? I don't think he can. Like what is he building there? I don't really understand.
Yeah, nobody really understands, but I also don't know that they have any reason to move away this year. Like, I don't think they're expecting to win this season. They're bringing on the kids. Um, yeah, it's just another lost season probably for Anaheim. The one player that seems to be able to elevate beyond it so far has been Troy Terry, and we'll get there in a minute. But I think that Cutter Gauthier, the future is very bright. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
dynasty keeper kind of take here, but Cutter Gauthier, wanted to shout him out. He deserves a lot better. Maybe the most snake bitten player in the league at the moment. Moving right along, we have the move of the week. Blake, get us in on your last ditch goalie stream.
You bet, buddy. Not much to say here. Yeah, I again the listener league, which I talked about here. I'm 0-4 in that. It was a really close matchup I had with one of our listeners here, and I saved the move. I actually streamed pretty well. I streamed Leo Carlson in for the Friday Sunday, right, to dodge that Saturday. So I was happy about that. He did nothing for me on Friday, but scored a beauty goal here on Sunday. Thank you, Leo Carlson, for your service. But anyways, yeah, I wanted to give myself the best chance to win. My opponent had used all his 4 moves already, and I did a 1-game goalie stream, which I totally advocate for. Like, if you set up your teams properly and you're streaming properly, like 1-game goalie streams to me make a lot of sense, because your lineups are already sort of optimized, right? So you're not going to be dropping guys that are getting games in, but you can play a goalie, right? So I was happy I got Jake Allen in there, and of course, San Jose shut out the New Jersey Devils. I should have picked up Blackwood. I mean, apparently, shame on me, but I still got enough from Jake Allen to put me over the top. I'm going to win that matchup strictly because of Leo Carlson. But yeah, it was a big move for me, and I was basically win or lose me in my week, and I got lucky with Leo Carlson there. But yeah, I'm big on that. I am so much more controlled this year with my moves, Nate. You'd be proud of this. Like, I always have moves ready for the weekend. Last year, I was going into the weekend sometimes with all 4 moves already used, and I was basically just watching the pain unfold, right? But now I have a little bit more control, and would definitely advocate everybody do that. Try and save a move if you can.
For sure. I think it's worth noting too that in a lot of leagues, a lot of setups, a lot of points setups, it is really beneficial to use to try, especially if you're trying to come from behind in a matchup, to use that last ad on a goalie streamer for the Sunday night, because they have often the most variance. If they have a really good night, it's probably better than you're going to do with any random player who's on the waiver wire, unless they like really pop off for like 2 goals, 3 goals, or something crazy like that. Usually the best bang for your buck, if you're trying to come from behind and you're just trying to go boom or bust, probably the goalie is the way to do that. And so definitely advocate for people making that kind of move at the end of a week, especially if they need to come from behind.
Giggity.
As my opponent, as my opponent in Kick almost did with Mackenzie Blackwood in the game here tonight. All right, from my side, just wanted to talk a little bit about squeezing the value out of 2 final ads I had in Kickuffle here. Yeah, I didn't really need to stream. My team was pretty optimized. It just was one of those weeks where it actually worked out. All my team's schedules, all my players' individual schedules worked out really well together, and I didn't feel the need to make any moves. I was leading throughout the week. So then I got to the final here, and it was pretty tight to the end. You gained a fair bit on me on the Saturday. So I wanted to use both moves. I also didn't want to like not get anything for next week. So I used the San Jose Sunday Monday situation here. I dropped Vlasic. I had Alex Vlasic from Chicago. I dropped him for Mario Ferraro. So both players playing on the Sunday. So I didn't lose anything from the Sunday, but I gained the Monday from Ferraro for next week. Gained just a little bit of extra value there. And I dropped Barrett Hayton for Cody Cece to get the Sunday Monday there. Barrett Hayton, the Utah Hockey Club, they don't actually play again until Wednesday, so he'll be on waivers until Wednesday. Maybe I'll put in a claim and I'll get him back, but at least I can get my CC stream in, which was absolutely crucial. I actually didn't look at the final numbers. I may have needed both of those guys to actually pull off this W here. It was that close at the end of it all. But either way, I do think it's worth noting. Uh, Basically, when you get to the end and you have a few moves left, there's almost always, it's very, very, very rare that you can't do anything to get some value out of those last moves. There's very, very few situations in which I'd tell someone to just not use moves. So try to squeeze every ounce of value that you can get, even if it is for a low level player. Those points for, they count in the standings if that's your
Yep.
tiebreaker. All these things can come into play. You want to grind all the little edges, and they add up over the course of the season. Lastly, here, unfortunately, we do need to recap the head to head streamer deathmatch. Blake took this one going away. LaFerriere had 18.75 points. I have on the screen 5 points for Terry. He got 5.5 kickoff full points in the game here today with an assist and a few shots, bringing him to 10.5. So I got in the double digits here,
Nice.
Blake.
Respect.
Unfortunately, that means Blake is up 4-1 on the season. He's got Dorofia versus my Jack Roslovic, who's now on what looks like a fourth line for Carolina, so we can already write this one off. Fantastic stuff. We'll see you all next week. Blake, you want to say anything here?
No, buddy. You know what? I can't be too cocky here because I started out really strong last year in our head-to-head streamer deathmatch, and Nate made it really close until I pulled away and got the dub. All right. So, that's fine. I'm not gonna count my, chickens before they hatch here, but Alex Laferriere, thank you for your service. All right. And Troy Terry, he's a legend as well.
All right. That's going to be all that we've got for this episode. Hopefully, it brought you some value. Helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band. They're there for supplying the music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.